So we got 15 minutes left. We're done with like the whole authentication part. The rest of it is just taking that data and saving it to the database. And I don't really think there's like a lot of need to do it because you guys have already done stuff with Mongo. So I think I'm just going to pass on that if that's okay. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys just a couple of the other resources down here at the end of the lesson. So what we used to teach was this thing called Passport, where theoretically it makes OAuth much easier. In practice, it was about as complicated as the class today was. Because again, security is complicated. But if you want to take a stab at it, you're more than welcome to look at it. So here's the actual page for Passport, and then here's our old Passport lesson plan. The advantage of Passport is that it says simple and unobtrusive, and I completely disagree, but whatever. Sorry, I shouldn't hate on it too much, but really. The nice thing about it is that it already has like everything figured out for lots of different APIs. So Twitter is in here, and Facebook is in here, and Instagram is probably in here. Coinbase, my old company, is in here. So it already has these things configured. That said, it doesn't just work out of the box. There's more like additional configuring you need to do in order to get these to work. Namely, you need to put in your like consumer key, consumer secret, all of that stuff that we did before. So you can't really get away from those things. But if you want to, you could take a look at this, and it may make it easier, but it also may not. So very much take that with a grain of salt. It's a lot like Devise, where if everything goes perfectly, it's awesome. If it doesn't, it gets really complicated really quickly. So me personally, I would recommend just doing it yourself, because even though it may seem like a bigger initial investment, at least then you can see all the moving parts. And so if there is an error, it's easier to troubleshoot than if you're using someone else's stuff and you can't really see their code. So that's my 2 cents on it. So a lot of the stuff we went over today is actually from Request's own documentation on OAuth signing. And you'll notice it actually does it with the Twitter API. So it's not taken directly from here. They do everything in just one enormous object right here, and we split it up into a couple of different ones. But still, and they also use this really weird object syntax where they put commas at the beginning of each line. But we did basically the same thing. And the last thing is, if you are interested in Coinbase, then you can take a look at their own API over here, and some of my old documentation may still be on there. I don't know. But yeah, there's that. So for the rest of the time, I just want to open it up for whatever questions you guys have. Ryan.
So actually, the requests feature.
Bless you.
Answer my question.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, so we wrote a lot of code, that's all kind of boilerplate stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way to take that chunk of code we wrote and move it outside of our main?
There is. So that's actually later on in the lesson plan. That's one of the things that we didn't get to because it's pretty much just copying and pasting stuff into a different file. But this last step, one of these last steps, there's this tidying up step in here, which is exactly that, taking everything and moving it to a separate file. The end result is that it all just looks sort of like this. So here's the login/Twitter, here's the login/Twitter/callback, and all of the heavy stuff that's been moved to a separate file. So if you want to take a look at how all that went down, then you can look at the one president repo. I mean, you can also just figure it out yourself. I don't think there would be any problems with that. But if you want, you can also look in here. And so there's like a function for getting the sign-in URL, a function for when you're signed in, so when you're redirected back to your app, and then a function where you can check each time whether or not they're signed in. So I'll select that out right now so you can take a look at that if you would like.
We're going to need what was that thing where we stuck our, what was the object name that we stuck our authorization token in?
Process.env, that one, or rec.session?
Is that a global thing? So when we have this outside document where we've got all this stuff in, can we still get that authorization?
Yeah, you can. There are a couple like global, super global variables in Express, and that's one of them. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Myron?
Any takeaways for today?
Any what?
Takeaways.
Just think.
I would say mostly just know that OAuth exists. It has 3 legs, and it involves a whole bunch of random strings. And also that security is pretty complicated, not because people are trying to be mean, but just because it has to be.
So should I remember this code, or should it mean my code?
You know, same thing as every other lesson in this class. I don't expect you to memorize a single thing that you have learned in this class. What I do expect you to do is I expect you to know where to go when you have a question about this stuff. That is our lesson plans and Google, and you'll have a better idea of what questions to ask. Isaac?
Based on what we were talking about earlier, would it be easier to use the keys and just really use users rather than just your own profile?
Yeah, but then the downside is it makes for a worse user experience because you need them to go into Twitter and go to a specific page where they would have to copy and paste their tokens, and that also has lots of security vulnerabilities in it. Here, you're sort of taking care of that step for them. All they need to do is just click a button, and that's it. Otherwise, they would need to go somewhere else, copy, paste, and again, there are lots of security vulnerabilities with that. You basically want to assume the user is going to screw everything up imaginable, and then try to have that not happen. So in this case, we're just basically doing everything for them. Rob?
So in essence, that everything that we're doing right here, building this Twitter capable to be able to log into this app, is that something that whatever line of code that we have set up in here, if we could just like Ryan said and move it to something separate, this is in essence something we could just copy to whatever other apps that we have.
Yeah, actually, so this whole Twitter auth.js thing, you could take this entire file and put it in pretty much any other thing that you would want to, any other Express app. The only thing you would need to change really is just candidate right here. But yeah, no, it's this exact same process for every app. And obviously you can't use this on a Ruby app because it's a little bit different, but it'll still be you could translate it into Ruby almost line by line.
But once you have like a Ruby app and any other Ruby apps that you use.
Yep.
That's kind of the goal of Passport, right? Was to remove that stuff out and make it in a usable way. Only it's not necessarily as simple or as easy as what we see here to reuse. It's interesting because they had a much more complex world. Man. They had more than Twitter. They had to handle all of them. So it's mostly a user experience problem, I think, with Passport than it is a coding problem.
Yeah, well, I mean, this class itself was lots of boilerplate. And Passport, it's also lots of boilerplate. So if you have to write a lot of boilerplate, me personally, I would rather write my own boilerplate, I guess, than someone else's boilerplate. Brian?
Using Garnet as an example,
Yeah.
we could log in using GitHub. Right?
Mm-hmm.
When we do it that way, is Garnet on the back end creating a user account for us?
Let's find out. Yeah, I believe it is. Wow, 58 issues. Those are creeping up. Let's see. So it's either going to be in controllers, sessions controller. That sounds promising. Okay. So there's this GH authorized stuff. We moved all this into a separate file, I believe, into this GitHub model. If I look in here, let's see. Yeah. So here it's using this thing called OctoKit. OctoKit is so GitHub's mascot is the OctoCat, I think. This is OctoKit. So this is something that GitHub puts out that sort of has a whole bunch of stuff built in for interacting with their API. But you can already see some things that look pretty familiar, like env right here, environment variable. Client ID, we used client token before, but same idea. Client secret, it's all the exact same thing. And then look at this, OAuth/authorize. So yeah, this is exactly the process that's happening whenever you log in with Garnet, is all this stuff.
But is it saving? So if I never created a GA account or whatever, and I just signed in with GitHub, will they make a GA account for me?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Where does that happen? Can you show me where that?
Yeah, so that probably happens in here. Let's see. Okay, so add GH user. So it's looking for a user that has, every GitHub user has their own ID. And so it's looking for a user that has that ID. If it finds one, it's going to sign them in. If it doesn't find one, it's going to create a new user down here. I there's like probably another step somewhere in here where it actually creates it. But yeah, this is somewhere right around here. You're welcome. Yeah, this is perhaps not the neatest code that we've ever written, but it works, except for when it doesn't. Nara?
So the OAuth Bible is more so just understanding the terminology, it's not more so for like what it's
Yeah, the OAuth Bible is just for understanding OAuth because it is pretty complicated. So here's their three-legged section right here. I actually like their OAuth 1 section better.
pretty good documentation for their OAuth.
Oh, do they? Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, I like this diagram right here, which also shows the 3 legs. It's a lot like the diagram that we had at the start of class today. Anything else? Okay. Okay, cool. Thank you, guys. Matt, I think it was you who told me to like 6 seconds. I'm trying to do that now. Mostly it just makes for awkward silences, but it does work.
I got you on the slow side, bro.
Thanks, man. Someone stand up so everyone else feels like they can stand up.
We'll wait for you.
There are 2 people standing. 3, actually.
Okay, there we go.
4, 5. There you go. I definitely encountered this on my project when I was trying to do the Instagram integration.
Yeah.
And being the requirements were simple for us, we didn't want to do any user acknowledgments. We didn't need to tinker with this, but
It still gets pretty weird though. I mean,
there's
it's
no way they just. I mean, they just wouldn't share any of their businesses. Like I found a way to get. I mean, there was a guy who put his own access key in a code pen.
Oh, really?
I don't think he must not have cared because he did it. You know, people were playing around with it, but
yeah, I mean, like for my repo tagger thing, I mean, if you look at the source code for that, my access token is right inside it. And I'm not worried about that because when I created that access token, GitHub lets you set permissions saying, hey, this thing you can only do this with this access token. So in that case, it
it's
was
not
even
like
only
somebody can grab it and do whatever they want.
I mean, it depends a little bit. Like, that's why when it asks you to log into Twitter here, it says, hey, this app would like to access your post history, make posts for you, blah, 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 blah. So a wary user will see that and I'd be like, no, I don't want them to do that. But that's sort of on the user.
This is